Hello and welcome to my video about this Audiomeca Damnation CD transport. Well, what a name, and who wouldn't want to get their hands on one of those? And Pierre Learn, that makes Audiomecas, also had models like Ambrosia, Elixir, Cheops, Creatura, Mephisto, Obsession and Talisman. So certainly big in the marketing department, and it's very quirky. This the front panel sort of moves on hinges. I don't know. It sort of goes up and down. I don't know why. There is I thought there's actually a gap there. I thought there was some weird radio communications between the display and controls and the rest of it, but no, there is a ribbon cable that actually goes there. What was wrong with it? What was wrong is that that the owner complained that it doesn't play in a reliable fashion. When I opened it up, I saw this Jamicon capacitors that has a bulge on the top. A bulge is a sign that it's probably going to fail sometime in the future. So I replaced it, but it checked out all right, and once I was there, and it's a very quirky player, very hard to work on, you know, to open it up. So I thought I'll better recap it. These are all Jamicons, and Jamicons are only slightly better than Philips, and Philips actual capacitors of the 80s are the worst, so I thought I'll better replace all these Jamicons, but all of them, including the bulging one, tested good. So well, then I replaced the laser mechanism. Why? Because it was only 35 bucks, and you know, if there's something wrong there, it's very hard to get to it, and you know, even to adjust power. And this laser was putting out 0.3 of a milliwatt, which is 3 times as much as normally CD players do. And even adjusting it, it appears that servo controls that, and when I adjusted by a hell of a lot, it just slightly ever decreased originally. So I put a new laser mechanism. It plays well, but so it did before. But this is what the owner's gonna get. Basically, work on this. You know, if it takes 3 hours or 4 hours, it's just not being economical. How much can you charge a customer? That's why I prefer to buy faulty, fix them, and then I have more time. And I work slow. You know, I'm not authorized agent. I don't have manuals and parts. I have to source them. It all takes time to even find them. So it takes me a long time to do one, and I try to, you know, do them properly as much as I can. So to the actual transport, and to finish my waffle. Well, what transport does is puts out a square wave, and square wave is basically like that. It is not the best, but it is better than most. It's not quite square, but it's, you know, doesn't have any overshoots, and verticals are almost vertical, some roundings. So it does its job as a transport well, despite being homemade. The whole thing is made of timber. This is just timber box, with the rear panel is made of metal, but the rest is timber. A couple of there's a cover there, and there's a lid, because obviously it's a top loader. In case you're wondering what those things there, this is my way of holding the micro switch down so it thinks that the lid is down. And it's a dangerous thing to do, because over there is mains on that fuse. There's all exposed mains on that fuse and connectors. So well, if it's all closed up, it's all closed up. But you know, I would put some heat shrink on it, you know, if I was building it. But you can see on the output board, and perhaps the curve will even become better if I replace those 4 capacitors for bigger ones. This is what Lampizator does to the power supply chips. And there is a chip there, I don't know, it says flip-flop, or maybe some kind of inverter that provides square wave. Maybe I put a capacitor across that, it will get better. But it's held on hot glue over there, you know, just on hot glue. As you see, it's a bird's nest of loosely put in cables. The board, you can have a quick peek. There is a bit of a board. The board looks good and professional. There's still lots of soldering on it. The original one, which is pretty good, and then somebody else was there, which is not so good. Very hard to work because it all sits together. That plate, the mechanism, there is another, of course there's a board, and then there is another bit of chassis in between, and you cannot get access to anything when they're all screwed together. And when they're not, then you cannot measure because the cables are too short. You know, that the only long cables is that big ribbon one. There's just a meter too much of it. So anyway, that's about all, folks, and thank you for your attention, and till the next one. Bye bye. Maybe so I don't have to, I'll show you that, maybe so I don't have to show the owner that it plays anything. I'll play CDRs alright. I mean, with 3 milliwatts of power, almost any CD player will play anything. This is a trick I've learned. Instead of removing my pincers there, I can just hit open on Philips remote, and that will reset the servo. So now, and interestingly, if you press 8, it will get error. So I have to go and manually go to track 8 and hit play, and I'm sure it will play well. And then I'll go to track number 15, and that concludes my testing. Well, thank you very much for your time. For those who this is the first video of mine, they watched, the 8 and 15 are the biggest interruption, data layer and black dot. It's a purposely faulty test list. Thank you very much. Goodbye.